So by now you have seen the Paldean Wonders trailer. It's literally playing for you all right now. If you've watched the breakdowns, you know the cards. We're getting the Miascarada EX, we're getting the Gold Tango EX, we're getting our new Gen 9 starters. We have wonderful supporters, the stadiums, and all of that good stuff. Y'all get it. But I think the thing here to really think through is that most of the coverage is like, hey, here's the cards, and so you don't really need another video that's saying that. So what we want to do today is to go a little bit deeper, spark a conversation, because the only thing that I'm hearing about this set is that it's a filler set. And now they may be right, okay? They may be absolutely right, but I want to make the case of like, should we call it that right away? And by the end of this video, if you are not convinced, then you know what? Let me know in the comments, and that might be actually it. So let's dive a little bit deeper and let's just see some of maybe the sleeper cards that can really be a banger when this comes out. So let's first talk about the card that nobody is talking about enough, right? And that right here, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, is a Ceruledge here. So this is a stage 1 non-EX Pokemon. You have Fighting Sword, 70 damage, just 2 Psychic, 1 colorless. And if your opponent active Pokemon is an EX, it does 70 more for 140 damage. Now, here's what people glossed over. This is a stage 1. Now, that is huge. It actually matters a lot because we have stadiums in this game, and one of the great stadiums that like boost up stage 1s is the training area being able to exist in this game. It gives your stage 1 Pokemon plus 10 damage. So now we're looking at 140 being boosted into 150 into EX Pokemon, aka either Megas or you know, your 2-pointers from a non-EX. So let's think about what this actually means for the meta, right? You're hitting 150 into EX with that training area, and this is without a Giovanni to boost it up to 160, or even a Red to boost it up to 170 damage, right? Ceruledge is one-shotting a lot of these meta Pokemon and only gives up 1 prize point with its 110 HP. So when we look at it, we have Absol EX that hits that 170. You have Darkrai that's 140 even with a cape. They're only sitting at 160. You have Giratina that's like making a fun comeback that this one shots right away. You have things like Greninja EX in those Suicune decks. Like Suicune's already 140, but Greninja is 170 as well. This takes care of that with a Red, which is like fantastic to be able to see that as well too. Altaria is 190, but you bring it down to, you can bring this thing down to just 20 HP, and that's nutty. So even if they have like a ways to attack you, they have to retreat there because they're going to lose the game. So with seeing some of these higher mons here, like this being able to attack into those EXs is really cool. Now, when we think about this in to Miascarada, that like also did this piece, right? Like it has to be an EX in order for it to be able to attack. Miascarada does it for 2 energy, but it does for 130. However, that was a stage 2 mon, so you still had to find your cards in order to be able to get that, right? Like you still have to do rare candy into Miascarada, or you know, your Florigatu into Miascarada. But either way, there's still those extra cards where this is stage 1, you're right in there, and you get the boost from a training area to deal that extra damage. So that's like really nice here. I do know the energy cost is real, so I'm not gonna say that at all, right? 2 Psychic and 1 colorless means that you want to lean into a Psychic engine, but we already have Gardevoir decks running a Psychic acceleration. Slotting in this Ceruledge line with a Gardevoir build can give you completely unexpected angle of attack. Your opponent plays around Gardevoir, Gardevoir, but they don't play around the 150 damage from a stage 1, that they probably didn't see that coming. So this card could be really good into the Psychic decks. There are tons and tons and tons of EXs that are running around. We are going to see and live in a world with Hydreigon and Absol, and to be able to shut down that deck essentially with just one card is actually pretty cool. So is this a sleeper card of the set? Who knows? But the damage output is real, and I'm excited to play with it. Okay, so now we're going to be switching over to Meowscarada EX, which has been the talk of the town right here, right? Like, this flower trick has been a really cool, unique piece to be added into here, and let's just continue to go about it, right? So everyone understands the basic read. You pick a spot, whoever ends up there takes 70 at the end of your opponent's turn. The interesting version people have mentioned is like you're targeting the bench to then get a Cyrus play coming up even more. But what's really cool about this whole thing is that you're essentially playing mind games with your opponent. You, for one, let's take a look at this, what's happening, right? It is 1 energy, so that means you get to if you go first, you get to evolve right away and hit the 70 damage, which is awesome. You are also grass, which is also pretty sweet, because the decks that are running rampant right now, like the most #1 played deck in this season's this past season, or the season that's wrapping up here, is Hydreigon Absol. So you're getting an extra boost into damage as well. So even if Flower Trick is into the active spot, that's 90 damage. If it's in the back spot, that's 70. Solar Beam is hitting for 100 instead of just 80 for 2 damage. And that is very decent, especially being grass. You have access to Leaf Cape, you have access to Erica. It's a stage 2, so you have access to Lily as well. So and now we have Lucky Ice Pop, so there are ways to stay alive into that, especially being able to play and have an advantage against the high meta deck. But we go back to this Flower Trick. You know where your damage is going, right? Your opponent now has to make every single decision. Are they retreating? Their bench placement, their supporter usage, with that constraint, right? You're not just doing 70 damage, you're warping every decision that they make for a turn, and being able to have that control, so to speak, is pretty sweet. So if they have that low HP Pokemon on the bench that's almost knocked out, you choose that bench spot, and now they can't really retreat their active without it losing, because then you're gonna be able to knock it out right away. They can't retreat it into a safe option, so that Pokemon is now stuck there, and they have to work around that. They see the attack coming, they see the knockout coming, and there's really not a lot for them to do. So that's really nice there. And with pairing this up with the existing Sprigatito, that's like, this is the one that's like good into the grass decks. I'm sorry, this new one that we have right now, that is filler, right? But every set has filler. That's filler. You're not going to want to use that one. You're going to want to use the one that sets up your bench more efficiently. And then you get to get your Meowscarada out, because you're thinning through the deck, getting these cards out, being able to Flower Trick pretty quickly, and then getting that Flower Trick off, so that way you can Solar Beam, Flower Trick, Solar Beam, and really just mess with your opponent, their board space. They're like, usually there's a lot of decks that you can say, oh, no one's safe, but like literally there is nowhere safe for your opponent to play with Meowscarada, and grass having control into a dark heavy deck is pretty sweet, and Flower Trick is awesome to be able to do that, and I'm really excited to see how this mechanic plays out in this new set. Now the next card that I want to talk about is Gold Dingo EX here. We're going to dive into this Spending Rush, because this could be the sleeper EX out of the set as well, just because the math is going to be mathin', right? Spending Rush picks one of your opponent's Pokemon at random, and then for each Metal Energy on Goldrago, picks again. So each time its Pokemon is chosen, it takes 40 damage. So the question is, with a given number of Metal Energy, how much does the damage actually spread out? So if your opponent has like 3 Pokemon, 1 active, 2 bench, and you have like 5 Metal Energy, right? The energy triggers 1 random selection. So with that, on pure probability, each Pokemon can get hit roughly 6-7 times, right? So that is there. Nobody really gets knocked out. Everyone is damaged, but like you really are going to be spreading that around, which is cool. So, but you know, as you know, if Pokemon people like to just do one Pokemon or split them up, you know, 1 and 2, just an active, but like we focus on just an active, no bench, you still have that 5 hits, that's 200 damage from just one attack. And so you really just want to build up, as we all know, the less Pokemon, the better. We've seen it all around from Macargo, we've seen it from Rayquaza, the king of this move with a Dragonite, Wugtrio. But now we're getting this with Goldingo, but I really do like this idea of being able to ramp and do more, right? So there is no limit. There's no upper limit to that, and that just kind of scales really, really high here. So I think it's gonna be a really fun card to play with because of that aspect here. Especially with folks who like to play the slim bench strategy, Goldingo just becomes exponentially much more powerful. The fewer Pokemon they have, the more concentrated the damage is. And there is a very clear ramp path that has been discussed already. You have 2 options really here when it comes to metal. You have Probopass, which we can like look up for y'all as well too. Like let's pull up Probopass here so that way y'all can see it, because this was one. Here we go. It's our latest one right here, right? 2 energy. Take 2 energy from your energy stone, attach it to one of your bench Pokemon. You deal 40, but it's a stage 1. But you can also use here Dialga as well too. So just knowing that this is also an EX kind of works for yourself, but it deals a little less damage. But it's a basic. It just takes 2 energy attached to one of your bench Pokemon. You have Probopass attached to your bench Pokemon, and then you're gonna swing with Spending Rush after the fact, right? So again, the strategic layer behind this is trying to thin your opponent's board. Right? Thin your opponent's board, get them out there. You're going to want to use Sabrina to force something up to the front, so that way you can reduce their health down, so that way like even just like a couple of swings of the Spinning Rush just can take them out as well. And then like just go for it. It can get very dangerous for your opponent if you're switching things around to just even take their health down, right? 60 damage can go a long way. 80 damage can go a long way. So this is going to be like pretty sweet to like build into from there. So now let's talk about Mesagoza, because it's a conversation that has been like, this is what the card can do for you, right? Once during each player's turn, that player may flip a coin. If heads, that player puts a random Pokemon from their deck into their hand. So we know that if it's heads, you get your Pokemon in there, and we know that. But we know that this is probably going to be the most accessible stadium in the game. It pretty much kind of goes in any deck, right? Like there's no reason for you not to be able to play it. We've seen Peculiar Plaza, that's only Psychic. Training areas only for stage 1s, and then you have your starting planes, which is for basics. Mesagoza is really all about thinning your decks, right? So this is cool. This is cool because what typically would happen before is that let me back up here, right? Because this is so playable, it creates pressure on every other stadium in the format currently. Decks that are heavy on the Psychic are running the Peculiar Plaza. The other decks that are basic heavy, you have like we shared, but those ones are game changing specifically to them. But now they are vulnerable to being replaced, and replacing them now it has a cost, because you have to give up their stadium effect and you get to ruin their strategy that they're doing. That's what I really like about this card, is that because it's slotted in, you can play it not only to like help yourself out and thin out your deck, but as kind of like a counter. I can play some heavier stage 2 decks and not really have to worry about my opponent playing training area, because I'm gonna say bye-bye, here's your replacement. You don't get that extra damage off. I can live another turn. So Mesagoza here or you're not giving up much by dropping it. Its effect is universally useful, but you are using it as a removal tool. You are not playing it because you need the flip, but you're playing it to ensure that their Giratina that has no energy can't retreat for free into their Darkrai that's been ramped up, right? You're getting this Pokemon, it's a bonus, but it is making sure that you're keeping these stadium dependent decks in check. Now there is a real cost to them losing it out. They don't get to play their stadiums for free, so that's a very meaningful shift when it be able to come here. You get to play defense because of how flexible this card is, and that's pretty sweet. So now let's address the big old elephant in the room, and that's Nemona here, right? The supporter that gives your Palma that plus 80 damage against EX Pokemon this turn. Now, we don't have the new Palma yet, but we can work backwards from Nemona to kind of figure out what it probably needs to do to be viable. So what could this mean here, right? So the existing Palma lives in a world where it deals for 2 energy, 70 damage. It also has this counteract ability where if your opponent attacks you, you do 20 damage to the attacking Pokemon. With Rocky Helmet and the new supporter, you are dealing with a ton more damage. Now, what does that number look like? You have 70 damage, plus the 80 with Nemona, you're now 150 into the X. With Rocky Helmet, they attack you, that's 170. Now, the more interesting question is what if the new Palmont in the set hits for more? Even if this just does 10 more damage, just 10 more damage, Nemona pushes it to 160 before any modifiers, and 160 knocks out a very large portion of the EX Pokemon in the current meta. Now, the reason why this matters is that because Palma is a non-EX, if you can knock out an EX with a non-EX attacker, you win the points trade. That's awesome. So Nemona is designed specifically to enable that trade. So the real question when it really comes down to is whether we're gonna have some good HP with the new Palma, so that way you can take out a hit. So like I attack for 160 into this EX. That is, like 160. We don't like get Rocky Helmet or whatever the case may be, right? Like you might not have this like counterattack either, but this happens. They attack us, we get to attack again, right? Like that's pretty cool. I'm happy if there's a retreat cost, if we can get a little bit more damage. I'm happy if there's a retreat cost and we get a little less HP. I wouldn't want it to go too much because it's still a stage 2. So if it's 130, but you're boosting out 160, 100, they wouldn't give you 90 damage. There's no way that they would, but even 160 damage, like that's awesome. So this I'm going to treat as like one of the higher variance unknowns in this set. So I'm excited to see what the full reveal looks like, because this could get very scary very fast, and being able to put this into an electric deck where you're able to still run things like Oricorio in this, so that way you can really build up into that stage 2 with no problem against these other EXs, and you go into it, hit it for hard, and you get to trade out. Could be pretty spicy. So we're here now, and like I said, if it's a filler set, it's really up to y'all, and I really want y'all to let me know down in the comments below. But we do know that like every card revealed is not a banger, right? Like the new mouse hold is cute, flipping 3 coins to take away the energy, cool, it's a meme, but like we have a mouse hold that already hits harder in terms of raw damage, that like this version probably is like the budget option at best. We have Arvin that's solid, it can kind of guarantees you a card regardless of the flip, which is better than flipping for nothing. We love to see it like be a little bit more consistent, so that way maybe this is like our fossil searcher, but like good card, not a meta defying card, right? We got our basics doing what basics do, and so we hold judgment to see what the full evolution line looks like. And with Paldean Wooper, maybe we get a new Paldean Clodsire, maybe a non-EX Clodsire. Be niche, but useful for poison-based decks. Not exciting, but not nothing. So we got some sleepers. We got some more strategic death when it comes to controlling the board and grass. We're getting some smart board control with Goldingo. Mesagoza is like reshaping what the stadium meta could look like, and Nemona can like build a new competitive deck, which could be very exciting. So there's still so many cards that we haven't seen yet, and with the last set, there's a lot of cards that weren't shown in the trailer that are playing out a lot right now. So thank you all so much for watching. Drop down some of the cards that you are most excited about in the comments, because I genuinely want to see what y'all are thinking about, and let me know, is this a filler set? Until next time, y'all, catch y'all. Peace!